Right. I know what you're thinking. But Dan, your movie memory schedule said Toy Story for June. Hold your horses. Just pay a visit to my Instagram. I explained everything there. Well, I never expected to talk about a movie this recent. Yeah, never mind the fact that Cars 3 came out 5 years ago, This Disgrace came out 4 years ago, and This Disgrace came out 2 years ago, but this movie came out 2 bloody months ago! You might think this is illegal for this series, but honestly, I just really wanted to talk about this one. Especially since if I was talking about Toy Story, I'd be fighting against a week to get it done and miss the month, considering I only started editing this right after my exams finished and I'll properly be back soon. But with all that out of the way, let's see whether this movie is as bad as it says it is, and will make me want to commit battery by the end of this video. But I will need to warn you guys, since this is a very new movie, a spoiler warning will be in effect. So if you haven't yet seen the movie at the time of this video, then I humbly recommend you leave this video now and come back after you've seen the movie. Oh, still here? Fine. Ruin your chances of finding things out for yourself, but don't blame me. This might just be the shortest My History segment I'll ever make in this series. As this is the most recent movie we're covering, I first heard about this movie right after episode 1 was released, and honestly, while I thought the movie looked interesting, the simplistic designs of the characters and generic title were what defeated any chances of me wanting to see this movie. While I was releasing the other 3 episodes at the time, I had no intentions of seeing it. Until, on the Saturday before Easter, only 2 days after episode 4 was released, my cousins arrived, and my sister thought of having a day in town with them, and seeing the bad guys with them, so I had to go. When I found this out, I just thought,
off to hang myself, hot and left!
Because it would mean having to sit through seemingly generic kids movie number 274. I went to view with my cousins to see the movie in the cinema, and you'll find out what I thought of the movie momentarily. Here we go again! It's deconstruction time! I'm sure you're all looking forward to this. I know I am! As always, I have rewatched this movie in preparation for this video, and this will be based around my opinion and nobody else's. Call me a furry, but The Bad Guys is phenomenal. Everything about this movie is absolutely amazing from start to finish. So let's start, as always, with the characters, beginning with the big bad man himself, Mr. Wolf. I do think this character is great, but a tad overrated. What do I mean? Everyone seems to talk about him as if he's the next Justin Timberlake! Someone explain this one! I mean, don't get me wrong, he does have great development and growth as a character, but the fact people endlessly talk about him on YouTube bothers me. Now let's move on to Mr. Snake, one of my personal favourites, which is actually a shock considering how I'm terrified of snakes in real life. I love that he was the character who mostly remained a stick in the mud throughout the movie, but eventually grew in the end. Then we got Miss Tarantula. I'm sure there'll be a good chunk of internet people out there who will think of Webbs as a very relatable character. And this is only something I found out about this movie when I read into it on Wikipedia, but just like with Train in last month's episode, it turns out Webbs had a gender swap from the original books this movie was based on. Let's move on to Mr. Shark, the main comic relief, and provide some of the funniest moments and or lines of the movie.
Seconds later.
We're in! Oops, I forgot, I'm not pregnant.
While Mr. Shark is one of the funniest characters, he isn't the only funny character of the movie, as we now move on to Mr. Piranha. He has some of the funniest moments in the whole thing as well, and also sings the best song in the whole thing, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, this may make me sound furrier than ever, but I just can't help but love Diane. The only reason I adore her in this movie is because she's the most developed character of the movie in backstory. Professor Marmalade was an interesting twist villain, to say the least. I was predicting him to be the twist at various points while I was watching this in the cinema, and ended up being right eventually. As for the humans, like the police chief and Tiffany, we don't have to go over them in too much detail. The former has not much in terms of character, but does have a few funny moments, and the latter is just your typical news reporter who just has cuts away from the action. Time to address the story. After a failed heist attempt, Mr. Wolf suggests that, with Professor Marmalade's help, the bad guys can be reformed into the good guys. And during the reforming, Mr. Wolf decides he wants to unironically become good. That's the best I could do in terms of summarising the story. I just wanted to get to the positives as quickly as I could. Talking about these positives won't do anything, so I'll just go and make a montage of every single good element that I could find in this movie. That's how many positives I found. Good night! I think the best of these positives was Diane revealing herself as the Crimson Paw. I remember watching this in the cinema, thinking to myself, this is really out of context. And soon after came the face reveal, and then I thought, oh, I guess not. Now let's move on to the original song for this movie. I absolutely love it. Actually, I despise it, because it's so fucking catchy that I can't jam it out of my head. It's about as catchy as Jennifer Lopez's Puppy. Seriously, you try listening to this song and then try and not get it stuck in your head. Unfortunately, The Bad Guys isn't perfect, as there was one thing that bugged me, and that thing was pop culture reference.
Where'd you learn to do that? Well, kind of a natural. Mostly YouTube.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of pop or internet cult references. I mean, if they're used as a way of poking fun at the media in question that's being referenced, then I can just brush them off as decent. But when they're used without any sort of reason or joke, that's where my problem lies. Isn't it any wonder why I dislike the Sonic movies and why I'll never talk about them in this series? Wait, what am I talking about? The Bad Guys is unfortunately a culprit of this, blatantly using pop cult references like this just to announce the existence of YouTube towards the kiddies. But that's about as far as this movie gets bad. I mean, this isn't even a major problem, it's just a little nitpick. Honestly, what else is there to say? This movie actually surprised me. It was so much better than I thought it would be. That was fun. Now time to see my final thoughts on The Bad Guys. A top 3er, definitely. I swear to Christ, I am not over-exaggerating when I say that this has become one of my favourite animated movies of all time. Yeah, go fly a kite, Blue Mountain Mystery. This was a fantastic directorial debut for Pierre Perifel. Talk about good first impressions, eh? Now I hear Perifel said he would love to do a sequel. And Pierre, if you're watching this and you do end up making a sequel, do us a favour, don't let me down, okay? Just before I end the video, I just want to make one thing clear. There won't be any more sudden changes to the schedule. Everything you see from July to December will still be coming out as planned. This is just the one change I'll be making due to the fact that my exams have just finished, and if I were to talk about... Ooh, let's not go there. Then I'd end up missing the month. But now that I have more time on my hands, I will talk about everything else as planned.
Get up on the floor, we're gonna be good tonight. Wanna get you feeling right. We're gonna be good tonight. We're the good guys. We're gonna be good tonight. Wanna get you feeling